Hi, everybody. This is Mo with Mo's Interviews. I'm happy to be here today with a special guest. This is a star athlete and legend, Denny Flora from Newcastle, PA. How you doing today, Denny?
Good, Mo. How you been, man? It's been a long time.
Yes, sir. It's been a long time, man. Great to see you. Still looking great, man. How's everything
Thank you.
going
Thank
down
you.
there?
It's all good here in Newcastle. Keeping busy between teaching, running the winery. Uh, Kids are getting older too fast. Coaching. I was coaching my daughter's basketball and stuff, but they've kind of moved on to junior high. So now I'm working on my son's fourth grade team, and yeah, just keeping busy all around, pretty much.
Awesome. So let's start off. Let's talk about just tell everybody what city, what state, and tell us a little bit about your hometown.
So from Newcastle, PA. Newcastle. Uh, Kind of I think a big deal maybe at one point, like when our parents were probably coming through, 60s, 70s. It was a steel town, uh ton of factories, ton of work, blue collar people. The sports programs were always pretty good. Really, football here was
Right.
kind of a big deal, big thing. And it kind of, I think, gave the town a little bit more of a name.
Okay.
um Won a lot of championships back in the day. We had a couple legendary coaches. Uh, I think it was the first stadium in the state or maybe the country that had lights that they played under the lights. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's something like that. So it's just a blue collar town, but over time, probably like a lot of places up where you are,
Uh-huh.
um, factories went away, jobs went away,
Right.
and the town kind of little by little by little. Um, just isn't the same anymore. So,
Right.
there's some of us here that kind of, went our own ways and then came back to see, okay, well, you know, how do we kind of keep our roots here? How do we, through education as a teacher, how do we and in coaching, how do we kind of help these kids get out of this town? Maybe not for good, but get out. I always preach, get out a little bit and then come back and try to make it better.
Right. Right. Right.
So I see a lot of the things you're doing. It seems like the same things, you know what I mean? Where you're trying to teach that next generation of kids of this is what it was, but you can't live in the past. It's what it was,
Right.
but what can it be? How can you create something new? So,
Right. Right. Right.
and I think Newcastle's always been in a place where um it's been a tough place to grow up, meaning that if you can figure out how to get out of here, usually the people that leave end up being pretty successful, whether they come back or whether they start
Right.
a future somewhere else. So,
Right. Yeah, you hear that about Erie a lot where I'm from. They say if you can make it in Erie, you can pretty much make it anywhere.
yeah.
Tough
Mhm.
town.
Right. And I think it's the same kind of places, even nowadays, you hear, and I talk about sports here, but as things go on, it's always the team from Erie, the team from Newcastle, Western PA.
Mhm.
It's the same types of places.
Right. Right. Right.
Mhm.
Is it a close knit town? Would you say family's close knit?
Yeah, yeah, I think it still is. At one point it probably was even more, but
Uh-huh.
it's shrunk a little bit, but you kind of know everybody. There's some families, ethnic families that are from here, and the people that came through, the names,
Right.
um, the different sides of towns where and you kind of see now that those are all the people, hey, we're the old ones now, really. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So you see that those people that came through, they're trying to hold on to maybe a little bit what was there and keep it going.
Right. Right. So tell me about your family a little bit. Did you grow up with both parents, single parent, any siblings?
Yeah, both parents, big family. One side of my mom's side of the family was enormous. My dad's side, big family too. Italian family on both sides. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. Um, Close family, always together, really, always doing things together. Just I remember like fond memories of Sunday dinners together, being outside playing ball, but just a lot of support, always there for one another. And it's something that I've tried to instill in my kids of the same thing, that family culture and that family,
Right.
that you always got to be there for your family. They're always there,
Right.
whether you see them all the time or not. And but yeah, Yeah, it was a lot of fond memories and good memories growing up.
Right. So I read
Mm.
about the number 26, a fond number in your family. Looks like your dad, your uncle, your cousin, and then you wore the number. Can you tell me
Mm.
about a little bit about what that was like wearing a number you knew your family like was a big part of your family?
Yeah, I think it started with my uncle, and he my grandfather played in the 40s, and I don't know, you remember back when it was they just had crazy numbers in the 90s.
Right,
It didn't
right,
matter
right,
where you played, you know.
right.
So somehow, some way, he turned my grandfather's number. It might have been 92 into 26, looking for a
Mm,
number,
okay,
and I think it just stuck. My uncle wore it. Um, he and my dad overlapped, I think, a year in high school, maybe. My dad ended up wearing it after him. Then they had a younger brother. There was three brothers. My other uncle Rick, he wore it. And then a couple years later, my cousin Johnny wore it. I think it's just something that just, I don't know if it was really planned. It just kind of happened
right,
that way. You know, you're always looking up to your older sibling or your older cousin or whatever.
right.
Um, so then it kind of, as I was growing up, it just was like a thing. It was like their thing. My uncles and my cousin, you know, they were all older, so obviously, but it kind of was just their thing.
Okay,
And I think more my uncle, him being the eldest one, it kind of was like his thing, you know. Um, so we all just, it was just like a family. It just turned into a family thing there where we all wore the number.
wore the
Um,
number.
yeah, and even nowadays, like my son wants to, I'm going to be 26 when I play baseball or whatever, and my daughter has worn it. My nephew's wearing it up at he plays up in the Shannon now, Pop Warner. So it's been fun. It's been kind of a thing that was just like something to talk about, something that held the family together, you know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
a common thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been kind of neat over the years. Um and then it ended up, I had a bar and I ended up calling it 26.
Mm.
Never wanted a sports bar, but the number kind of kept sticking. It was just easy to remember, so it
Right,
stuck. And
right.
then with the winery, we turned it just and called it a 26 in Italian, and that's 26. So just kind of
Okay.
was the thing. Yeah, it makes a good story too. So
Yeah, yeah.
mm.
So before you went to high school, did you play sports in Newcastle? Is there like youth football, youth basketball? Are there sports programs there?
Yeah, yeah. When I played, my grandfather actually so Lindy Laurel, I don't know if you ever heard that name. Lindy Laurel was a coach in Newcastle, legendary coach. He coached the high school team for like 30 some years.
Okay.
Um, and during that time, it would have had to be back in the 60s probably. He saw that they needed to figure out how to get youth sports going right, youth football going right. So
Right.
he and my grandfather kind of partnered up and they started Pop Warner football in Newcastle. My grandfather ended up coaching Pop Warner in Newcastle in 30 some years. I think he coached with East Side Rams, a part of town we're from. Um, so yeah, so football was a thing. I think we didn't start until like you guys were probably the same up there, like fifth grade. I think we started like
Yeah,
playing
around
Pee
there,
Wees
play
somewhere
around.
around there.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Yep.
junior high football now is basically what Pop Warner was
Right.
back when
Right.
we played. Yeah.
Right.
Um, but all the same, football. When it was baseball season, we played baseball in the summer.
Uh-huh.
When it was basketball season, we played basketball in the winter. You know, and just whatever we can get our hands on, street hockey during the days in the summer, or meet up at the basketball courts and play hoops. It was just a nonstop year-round thing. But my things were always football, baseball, and basketball that I always played.
Right. Right. You remember
Mhm.
any of your teammates from youth leagues? Any
Yeah,
you pick out?
yeah, I can remember like battling baseball battles in the summer because so the way they did it in Newcastle was they did it by wards.
Okay.
So every part of town, like the east side where I'm from, was fifth ward and fourth ward. So I lived and played for the fourth ward. Then there was a fifth ward team. And
Okay.
on the North Hill, there was a couple different. There was, I think, first ward and second ward. Uh, like there's a part of town called Croton had a team. So it was all the and all the back then all the neighborhoods had their own schools. So it was kind of
Okay.
rivalries between, you know, the different sides of town, the
Right.
different
Right. Right.
wards. So yeah, so there were some epic battles, you know, back then that you can
Now,
remember.
now you guys all, no matter what ward you lived in, you all went to Newcastle High School, correct? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so when I was coming through until sixth grade, we all had our own neighborhood schools.
Okay.
Um, and then in seventh and eighth grade, we would go to junior high, so we would all come together.
Okay.
And then high school was the same thing. Not high school, we had junior high 7 and 8, and then high school was 9 through 12, and we would
Oh,
come together then. Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
So talk about your time at Newcastle High School. When did you your football experience there?
Football was good. We didn't win a lot in high school. It was what I was saying, Coach Laurel. It was his last few years. Um, so we were used to winning the whole way through. Pop Warner, we always won.
Right.
Junior high, um, I think the one year we were undefeated. Then got to high school, 10th grade. It was Coach Laurel's last year. I think we might have been 3-7. And then Nick Rapone is actually with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's been with them recently for a bunch of years. He came in and ended up being our coach junior and senior year. Junior year was horrible. It was kind of like he came in late, rebuilding. I think we only won one game. Maybe we were 1-9. It was pretty rough.
Right.
And then kind of rebuilt. And my senior year, we ended up 4-6. But it was like one of those heartbreak every game that you lost was like, a touchdown, a 3 points, a
Yeah.
point, it was tough.
Right.
So it was kind of there. Uh, but it was good. I mean, win or lose, I think the most important thing high school wise is all those memories you have of just battling, weight room stuff, the
Right.
camp, you know what I mean? Like for 2 years of camp, we slept on army cots in our junior high school in the gym. I mean, it was
Right.
the most miserable thing ever, but you have a lot of memories, those guys that you see that you haven't seen in years and you see them. I mean, it's your brothers forever because of stuff
Right.
like that, so it
Right.
was good. Yeah.
Any personal accomplishments like records, yards, rush, anything like that that you are proud of?
Yeah. I don't talk about it a lot, but I ended up my high school career with the most yards in Newcastle history.
Okay.
So that was an accomplishment within itself. I think just the like a longevity thing and just being able to always be there, be a workhorse,
Right.
and be consistent with something. So yeah,
What years did you start at running back?
10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Yeah,
You
all
started
3 years.
3 years there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was like for Newcastle, who was your big rivalry in like the Whitfield? You guys played in the Whitfield, correct?
Yeah. Butler was always a big rivalry.
Uh,
That was probably the biggest. We would battle against them all the time. Like it seemed like all sports, but Butler was always, even from like back in the day, it was kind of our thing. Um, but we played like the teams we would played when I was there was like Shaler, North Allegheny, Butler, Seneca Valley.
okay.
Yeah, so it's all those teams are in 6A now.
Right.
And we're back in 4A. Back in the day, that was 4A.
Yeah, it was all one big conference, right? We're
Yeah.
all yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Any teammates you remember from Newcastle, man, that you maybe still talk to, or you just
Yeah, I keep in contact with some guys. Jason Scott was one of my linemen. Dan DePaulo is still a close friend. Jason is Beretta Chavis, Brandon House. There's a lot of guys we still keep in touch with. Yeah, over the years that are just to just become lifelong friends of just going through that grind. You know what that grind's like.
oh
So
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What was Whitfield football like? Tell me what that was like playing in a Whitfield.
It was tough. Those years that we played through that, there's a lot of guys that were in the pros that we played against. Mark Bolger was one, LeVar Arrington was another. Um, so it was a rough week in and week out, a rough conference, to get through.
Right,
So there was no slouches. There was no really where you knew, oh, okay, these are going to be easy games. It was every week where you knew you were in for a battle.
right, right.
Mhm.
So after all your sports were done in your senior year, tell me what recruitment was like. Were you getting recruited by some colleges, looking some looks?
Yeah. To be honest, it kind of didn't go the way I thought it was going to go.
Uh,
As as kind of we went through the process, I was kind of hoping for some bigger places or certain places to come through. I don't know if I had my hopes up too much. I don't know if maybe some of the information I was getting at the time was inflated, or I waited for certain things that maybe I shouldn't have.
Right.
But I did go to some places and check them out. Um, and then I ended up in my head. Um, I was stubborn. I wanted to be a running back. I didn't
Right.
want to. I didn't want people to tell me what I should do. So a couple places I did go to, I don't know how much they liked the fact of me telling them that I wanted to run the ball
Right.
when
Right.
they were
Right.
kind of
Right.
recruiting me on the
Right.
other side, you know. But I felt confident enough that I could. But in the end, going to Westminster with you guys, I felt I think at the point I ended up feeling like wanted, but also felt like comfortable with Coach Nicholson. It really just felt like this is the place I'm supposed to be.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know, and it ended up being good. You know what I mean?
Right.
So things I try to live life and look that no matter what you're thinking at the time of why things are happening, they
Right.
play out the way they're supposed to.
Right.
And I'm sitting here with you today, and everything has led for whatever reasons to this point, and I'm good with it. And so it's worked out the way that it's supposed to work out.
Right. Right. So talk about your college career a little bit. You played at Westminster. How do you feel like things went? Some accomplishments you made, maybe.
I think they went well. To be honest, the going in as a freshman, I didn't plan on playing 1 second up there with because I you guys just come off a national championship.
Right.
Yins were what, runner up, and then you just went national
Yeah.
championship, right?
So the year before I came, they were runner up. My freshman year, national championship the next year. Yeah.
Right. And so knowing that, I figured, oh, Andy Blatt, I figured he's coming in another year, probably gonna make another run. And I was going and thinking, I'll get used to college, get up to speed, probably redshirt or whatever, and come in and
Right.
not, and then work on whatever I got to work on the next bunch of years. Well, come in, I think Andy, hurt his knee or his hamstring or
Yeah.
something.
His knee was hurt, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think they were planning on him coming back, but kind of never really worked out until later. And yeah, so I kind of just took it easy and didn't come in real great a shape or whatever, and then kind of was like, oh shit, I gotta gotta
Right.
get
Right.
ready
Right.
to
Right.
go. And then that first year I think was tough for the older guys, in my opinion. All those guys that were seniors that came through with Andy and came through with that whole crew with Craig. Um, I feel like that they were poised to make a run for like a back to back.
Right. Right.
And in my opinion, I think they were let down a little bit that Andy wasn't there and that they had this young kid freshman that was going to be a back. And I think too, maybe as the 2 years going through that grind of playing all those games was a thing too. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's tough to
Right.
do
Right.
that year after year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, and then what were we? We were like 4-4-2, I think, that year. Didn't we have two ties that year?
I can't recall the record, but I mean,
I think we did. We were like, it was like a real odd year that
yeah,
we
it was an odd
tied
record
twice
that
or
yeah.
something. Yeah. But it was good. It was a major learning experience for me going from high school. Um, the way practices were, how rough our high school practices were hitting and everything, and then how mental college was.
Hmm.
That was the biggest adjustment for me, was like practices really weren't that hard, but
Right.
it was the mental aspect of all the things you needed to learn, all the checks you needed to know, and everything that was going on, the game within a game, and offensively all the plays and everything. So that those things together was an adjustment. But all in all, I mean, all of the experiences up there I enjoyed. I mean, we my junior year, I thought we had a really good team, and made a really nice run. Fell a little bit short, and I think we were poised. It seemed like every year they brought that freshman class in to win when they were juniors and seniors,
Right. Right.
get them
Right.
ready for that. And I thought my senior year that we had a team that could do that, and that's when we moved to Division II,
Right, the GLIAC, right?
to the GLIAC, and I thought that if we could have been in the PSAC, that was the type of football we played.
Mm,
And in that GLIAC, we weren't built to score 50 points a game. You
right,
know,
right, right,
we
right,
were built to run the ball, play defense, score 21, 27 points a game, and
right,
grind a game out. And
right,
it was just tough for us to keep up with all that scoring. The way that was when the game was changing to the spread and all that, and that's what the
right,
GLIAC was. Yeah.
right, right.
Mhm.
How was that, man? Like the traveling and all that, and some of the athletes that you saw in that the GLIAC.
It was tough. A couple of those trips were far, man. They were long trips. I mean, um, whether in a van or in a bus, it seemed like forever going. Still fun, but th- it was. I think athletic wise, we were there. We had the athletes on our team. The speed, I think, week in and week out was where it was a little bit different. It wasn't, you didn't play Finley every week, or you didn't play that real athletic team like when we were there.
Right,
So in the GLIAC, it was more every single week. But it was just, I think it was just the way the roster was built. It just wasn't built for that. We
right,
weren't built for that. But there were some good athletes that we played against. One that really stood out was I think his name was Sleepy Tully. He played for, it was a team in Michigan, I think. And then the other was, I'm going to draw a blank, but he ended up getting drafted by the Seattle Seahawks, the first round, maybe like 15th pick. He was a defensive end
right,
that was a transfer from Michigan. So like those are two people that were like legit, that really, really stood out,
right,
like this is a different level.
right. Right. So after your college career, you get into teaching. Tell me about that. You how have you enjoyed that? Tell me about you went back to your hometown and were able to give back. Tell me about
Yeah.
a little bit.
Teaching's been good. I actually didn't want to go from college right to start teaching. Um, but two jobs opened up, and it kind of just like fell in my lap. Um, and but ended up taking it. There was a point where I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue teaching, wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
Right.
I had bought a bar while I was teaching, and started running a bar, and thought that maybe I didn't want to teach and wanted to just continue on the other path, like
Right.
entrepreneurial path, business
Right.
path. So I ended up taking a year off of school, and doing that. And I remember sitting the night before I had to go back after that year was up, like writing resignation letters, like, I don't know if I want to go back. I'm not sure if I want to do this. Um, I ended up going back, finishing the year out, and I think I had a little bit different perspective going back. I
Right.
had a change. I was teaching first, second, and third grade. I ended up getting moved to sixth, and it was a good change.
Right.
Um, and yeah, 25 years later, still going. So got back into coaching. Um, I think coaching helped too, because I had a bad taste in my mouth with football for a while. I got hurt. My last football game I ever played, we were up in northern Michigan at
Mm,
Westminster, and I blew my knee out. I never really had major injury or anything, and
right. Right.
that kind of really put a damper on everything, really. Like it just, you play all those years. We start playing sports when you're a little kid, and you play all
Right.
those years, and that's all you really ever know, right?
Right.
Everything's surrounded by sports.
Right.
And when that was all taken away, I couldn't. It was probably over a year before I was like walking normal, and probably 2 years before I can even like start running or doing anything. So it was uh it was difficult to get through that, and I had a bad taste, and like didn't want to get involved in football, didn't want to coach, didn't want to do whatever. Um, but then when I did, and I got back, it kind of all that kind of
Right.
slowly. It was like therapy almost. Like it kind of
Right.
all went away. You start teaching again. You start giving back, and you see like the little things that you can teach a back or whatever, how it helps
Right.
them.
Right.
So then it was good. Yeah, yeah, it was good.
Right. How many years did you end up starting at Westminster? Just to go back, I think I
All four. Mhm.
you started all 4 years there.
Yeah, I think I think that I was actually the first freshman to ever start in a game up there, like first game of the year or whatever.
Right,
Yeah, because I ended up starting the first game that we played and
right,
went all the way through. Yeah. Mm.
right. So I got a similar story, man. I know this is about you, but just I know you talked about writing resignation letters. So in '04, I had been an elementary teacher for like 6 years or whatever it was. And they pulled me out of that position because I became a coach at one of the high schools. So they wanted me in the high school to be like around the kids, but I wasn't in a teaching position. They had let me kind of be like in a quasi administrative role. So from like '04 to like 2012, I was in that role in a high school, which is a totally different environment than an elementary school.
Hmm.
And I had not been in the classroom. So around 2012, our superintendent came in. They had to cut these positions. I had to go back to the classroom and an elementary classroom. I mean, I can tell you that first year, man, there were days where I was standing at my car, like, we had to be at work at 8. I was standing at my car at 7:30, ready to call HR, like, man, look, I'm done. I can't do
Yeah,
it.
that's rough.
It was tough.
Yeah.
You know?
Hmm.
So now, I did that for 3 years, and that 3 years was the toughest part of my educational career. But now being in administration, I kind of think that like kind of saved my career in education.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, you're a principal now?
Yeah, an assistant principal at Erie High School.
Oh, okay. All
Right.
right.
Yeah. So Erie like
So,
combined all the high schools like in 2017 into one.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. So when I was teaching first, second, and third grade,
Uh-huh.
I was in a computer lab. So it was kind of like I was like a special almost,
Right. Right.
Um, and then when I got swapped to sixth grade, I was in a building that was fourth, fifth, and sixth. But
Okay.
it was a little better. You had either two switches. Some years we switched four times. And the kids were a little older. So I was around some of the guys I used to play ball with and stuff. So it was a nice change of pace.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, but then even that then kind of start settling into that. And then what they did with us is they moved the sixth grade up to the junior high school. So recently, and I wasn't sure, but I'm like, well, it's a change of pace. Let's see what happens. But it's been good moving to the junior high. So it's a junior senior high now. So it's you probably can attest to this. It's like in that junior senior high, it's a little bit more like adult friendly, kind
Right.
of relaxed. You don't have that little kid thing anymore. You kind of so it's
Right.
been a good thing. It was a good move. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the restaurant, the winery. You opened. I know you had a bar before, 26 of them,
Mhm.
but now
Yeah.
you got a restaurant and winery. Talk about that. What that experience has been like.
So I had the bar, uh, almost 15 years. I had the bar, and I was young. It was, we did food. I didn't really want to do food. We ended up doing food. But it was a party place, DJs, bands, whatever. It was good. But as those years went on, and as I grew up a little bit, um, started getting more into food. Um, the town started changing a little bit where that nightlife really wasn't like it used to be.
Right.
Um, but during those years, I started making wine with some friends of mine and their family. And I think immediately like took a liking to it. It just kind of got the bug. So we kept doing it over the years. And I have a problem sometimes with not being able to do things just for fun. I want to want to
Right.
kind of take it overboard and see what can be made out of it.
Right. Right.
So all the years we were doing it, I kept thinking, well, this would be really cool to just make wine, sell bottles of wine, and you know, get into this
Yeah.
business or whatever. So at some point, my daughter's little, my son was born. We spent like 60 days down in McGee. He was born premature. So I got
Mm.
this little newborn home. I'm up the bar late at night. My wife's home with the kids. I'm home with the kids and I'm worried about what's going on at the bar. And
Right.
I thought maybe it's time to make a switch. So it was like a Sunday afternoon like this. I'm watching football. I sent a text out to a buddy of mine that they do catering, and sure enough, they're like, "Yeah, we're looking for a liquor license." So made a deal. I had bought a little church next to my house at one point for my
Okay.
wife to put a art studio in. She teaches art in high school,
Right.
and it kind of didn't pan out. But I had this building, and I thought, well, maybe we can open up a little like tasting room, maybe sell some bottles of wine. And the plan was to kind of just get on the road and sell wine and not really
Okay.
have a bar or restaurant anymore. Well,
Okay.
start making wine in the basement here. Um, Remodeled the whole place. My uncle and some family and friends helped me remodel the whole inside of the place and put a little tasting bar in, and that was the plan. Well, the, to pay bills and whatever we needed to, now we had like a band that would come in, then we had a food truck that would come in, then we had this, then we had that. Well, over the years, we noticed that, well, when we started the first year, the pandemic hit right after that. So we kind
Right.
of got opened up, then we got shut down. We were able to kind of pivot and put all the sales online, and we were kind of like, they shut down all the liquor stores in PA and everything. So we were kind of like the only game in town that people can get alcohol at that point.
Right. Right.
Um, so it saved the business. And then on the other end of it, I had hired somebody to cook for us. She was here for about a year, and then that didn't work out. And then I was at a point again, like, all right, well, maybe it's time to move on again. Maybe it's time to sell this place, you know.
Right.
So my wife Raquel and I sat down and talked, and I'm like, I think it's time to just be done. Like, finally, out of all the food, the bar, the restaurant
Right.
stuff, you know. And she actually talked me into, no, you'd like to do this. You should do, you know, stick with what you believe in, and, you know, don't be afraid to do it, blah, blah, blah. So, um, years and years ago, my original idea was to just do pizzas and wine and have
Okay.
like a little, you know, cool spot where you can just go out on a date, go somewhere, relax,
Right.
good music playing, good vibe, jazzy stuff, whatever, you know, upbeat
Mhm.
music, and just a place to hang out. So, kind of took a shot, turned it into that, and we're in year 3 of that now, and it's on been on an upward trajectory. It's been pretty good. So we're catering now. We rent the place out for parties. We've had a couple weddings here. So yeah, it's been good. It's turned back into a lot of work that I didn't want to do, cooking and stuff
Right.
again.
Right.
But I enjoy it. It's like it's a like you do music at your outlet on the weekends, like kind of mine is cooking.
Mhm.
It's like a you can't ever recreate sports at all.
Right.
And I found over the years, like, to get through like a dinner service, or to get through that rush hour of, you know, 3 straight hours of the printer just printing tickets out 1,000 miles an hour, and I got to put
Right.
all these orders and figure out how to get this all done. It kind of fills that void of like the rush of playing in a game or carrying a ball, or you know, the
Right.
pressure's on you, right? You got to
Right. Right.
perform,
Right.
you know, and you can't take a break. So yeah, it's been good. I think that's something that's like, you know, secretly it's like that's how you get by, and that's what gets you through. Like,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
angry as I get sometimes, or as rough as it gets, it's a game, and it's, how do I figure all these pieces out? How do I put this puzzle together to get through the night, or to get to the next step, or how does the business grow? And it's been good. It's been interesting. I learned a lot. You know, we've been fine tuning our crew here. I got great workers, great support. You know, and what's cool to see is people that come from, you know, hour away, hour and a half away, traveling
Right.
here. They're
Mhm.
hearing about it, and it's like, you know, because I'll ask, well, how did you get here? And, well, it's so and so, or we found this or that. So it's been
Right.
pretty neat. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's funny you say that about that void. I said it all the time. Like when I got out of football, you know, like because I coached football for about 8 or 9 years after college, and then after that, it's like you need those lights still. You know,
Hmm.
and I think music, you know, being a band leader, running a band has filled that void of, you know, like you said, that football was our whole thing, that sports was our thing, right? It
Yeah.
drove us. We were around people. We had ups and downs. So music has been that same thing for me, basically. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I look at other things like people that golf, or people that play basketball, or like my uncle just turned 70 yesterday. He's in Florida still playing baseball.
mm,
But
wow,
when football is your thing, where do you recreate that?
right,
How do you do that? You know,
right,
I actually got into like trying to start fighting here when I was
Okay.
when I got back with my leg and everything. Cause it's like, how do you, it's a weird thing I think that only football players know is like, how do you recreate like that adversity,
Right.
that how exhausted you are, that do you have it in you to get through the next play or the next drive or through that quarter, that game. And yeah, so I, I was looking at all different outlets, but I think that's something that's a mental thing too. You gotta always fight yourself and get through and you know, but yeah.
So tell everybody once again, what's the name of the restaurant? Tell a little
The
bit the contact information.
Yeah, the winery is called Venti Say Winery. Um, you can follow us on Instagram, find us on Facebook at Venti Say Winery. It's VENTISEI Winery. Our website's the same, Venti Say Winery. Um, we open 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we do like rentals and things like that, private parties and whatever. Um, but yeah, it's small spot. Summertime, spring, summer, early fall is really when it kind of gigs. We've little by little kind of turned the whole basically lot that it's in. We're right in the neighborhood. It's kind of
Okay.
unique, it's
Right.
not a huge place, but yeah, it's been good. Mm.
So Danny, a couple more questions for you. So a young kid that's coming up in Newcastle right now, um, looking to make it in the world, man. Can you give them some advice from Denny?
I think the biggest thing is being willing to work. I think work ethic. You know, I talk to my kids at school a lot about that. You have to be willing to do the things that maybe you don't want to do, or don't seem like you should do, but you
Right.
got to be willing to work. You have to be willing to grind. I talk to my son, my daughter, and my son a ton about it. Like, if you're willing to work, you might not be a college player. You might not be, you know, even a starter on your high school team. But if you're willing to work and just know that every day to try to get a little bit better, and everyone's going to have bad days. If you're willing to just try to keep improving yourself, I think you can make it. I think
Right.
it's about not quitting.
Mhm.
And it's tough here in Newcastle. We have the kids we teach. There's a lot of single family homes. There's a
Right.
lot of low income families. We have a lot of people moving in that from all over the place that come here
Right.
for cheap housing and whatever else. So
Mhm.
it's tough, and I understand that nobody chooses to be born into where they are, right? But
Right.
I think what's important is teaching these kids and instilling in them that it's it's really up to you. You know what I mean? It's I'm empathetic to your circumstance, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work hard and that you have to try to be a good human being and just do the right things, because there's a life out there outside of this town, outside of your neighborhood, outside of where you are. There's a huge world out there that everybody has a chance to be successful in if you're willing to work. But it's an easier thing said than done, to
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
instill in a young kid that. But I
Yeah.
think it takes a whole entire community to try to bring these kids up.
Right. Right. So once again, that was some great advice, Denny. Thank you. Once again, this was Denny Flora, Newcastle athletic legend, business owner, educator. Denny, thanks for being here today. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I really appreciate it. I do. I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's really neat just the older I get, I think the more the conversations matter. You know what I
Right.
mean? The people get together, have a good conversation, and like you said, we kind of did our thing. So it's about my kids, your kids, the kids we teach. And I think a lot of people lose sight on those things. It's not about us anymore. We got to do what's right, but and lead by example and have our own fun. But it's about the young kids coming through and how we can make everybody better. So,
Thanks, Denny. I appreciate you, brother.
all right, Mo. Thank you, man.
Have a great day, my friend.
You too, Mo. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, you're welcome.